right. I'm going to get us started with that post-lunch conversation. My name is Alexis Redig.
Alexis, dim the lights.
Oh. So I get that a lot.
So I'm guessing you don't have one of those at your house.
We do, but we call it echo because
There you
if people
go.
say my name, she always thinks that we're talking to her and we're not. And it's funny that you actually brought that up because we used to have a associate pastor who would come to my office and go, Alexa, what's the weather going to be like today? And I was like, that's not my name. But I would always tell him what the weather was going to be like because he was used to that. So it was just a little running joke that we had. So yes, I'm Alexis Redig. I'm here from Nativity Catholic Church in Brandon, Florida. Telling you a little bit about me. So I currently am the Faith and Media Coordinator at Nativity in Brandon, and it's a parish of about 6,000 registered families, English, Spanish. We have a very large, vibrant community. We have a pre-K through 8th grade school. So just a lot of activity all the time. We're the biggest parish in the Diocese of St. Petersburg in Florida. So as the Faith and Media Coordinator, which is not something that people hear probably ever, they kind of made the title up when they drafted my job description. I do our website, bulletin, social media, and then I also work with our liturgical ministries in terms of having parish liturgical committee meetings and coordinating with our leader of the readers and the EMs and the ushers and things like that. So I kind of wear multiple hats, and I work pretty closely with our stewardship coordinator as well. So I'm kind of all over the place, especially in terms of working in communications at the parish. You kind of have your hands in a lot of different things, just so that you know the buzz of what's going on. So I just put up, since I'm talking about accompaniment and social media, I just put up my social media profiles for you. But you'll just see that it's interesting when we think of social media and what we present and how we present ourselves there. So this is kind of where we're going to go today. We're going to do the brief discussion about accompaniment and how we kind of see it at work, and then we'll talk about the reality of social media, where people are, where they're spending their time, how much time are they spending there, who's spending their time there, and then how we can use it as a tool for evangelization and accompaniment. And I loved that in Jonathan's talk he said that we can encounter people on Facebook, but that's not the end of our accompaniment. And it really set up a really nice place for me, because that's really the point of my presentation for you today, is that it is a touch point, but it's not the end of our evangelization work. So I want to open up with a little bit of a discussion. So since we're a smaller group, we can kind of talk amongst ourselves and together, and just on these two questions. So what needs to be present for accompaniment to occur, and what words or examples come to mind when you hear the word accompaniment? So you can think about that and share as you're ready.
Accompaniment needs to have a relationship of some sort.
Yeah.
That can grow.
Non-threatening opening, an open, inviting.
Yeah.
Trust.
Yeah. That kind of goes along well with the non-threatening.
I was just thinking, when I hear the word accompaniment, I just always think walking alongside, walking alongside.
Walking on the journey. Good.
Not necessarily the same.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, kind of like he used the music example, I'm not a musician and I can't carry a tune, but you can have people singing at different levels. Well, the same thing with this accompaniment, someone who's farther along in their journey can accompany someone who's just starting.
Yeah.
And vice versa, because the person just starting is probably going to give the other person something to think about or journey along with.
Right. Or to remember back to their own starting point.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. So kind of the need for multiple different perspectives and views. Good. So as I was preparing for this, when I was trying to think of accompaniment, I found this definition. I can't remember where, but I loved the image that is brought with these words, to go somewhere with as a companion. And there's something, when you hear the word companion, that has all those things in mind, right? There's openness and trust and journey, and I love the to go somewhere. So we're not just accompanying them here, but like we're on the move, we're working, we're moving, we're striving for something together. So I really love that definition, to go somewhere with as a companion. Not to drag someone, to go with. So there's that steady pace and that journey together. So Jonathan also brought this up, the road to Emmaus, and like what a beautiful scripture for that model of accompaniment. And I just want to kind of dive into that a little bit with you. I know he didn't read through the scripture, but since we're in a smaller group, I think we can kind of open the word anew amongst ourselves. So I'm going to go ahead and read it out loud, and as I'm doing so, if you want to just think of, maybe there's, at the end we'll talk about maybe something that stood out to you that maybe you didn't realize before, or just another insight as we've been talking about accompaniment that comes to mind. Now that very day, 2 of them were going to a village 7 miles from Jerusalem called Emmaus, and they were conversing about all the things that had occurred. And it happened that while they were conversing and debating, Jesus himself drew near and walked with them. But their eyes were prevented from recognizing him. He asked them, "What are you discussing as you walk along?" They stopped, looking downcast. One of them, named Cleopas, said to him in reply, "Are you the only visitor to Jerusalem who does not know of the things that have taken place there in these days?" And he replied to them, "What sort of things?" They said to him, "The things that happened to Jesus the Nazarene, who was a prophet mighty in deed and word before God and all the people. How our chief priests and rulers both handed him over to a sentence of death and crucified him. But we were hoping that he would be the one to redeem Israel. And besides all this, it is now the 3rd day since this took place. Some women from our group, however, have astounded us. They were at the tomb early in the morning and did not find his body. They came back and reported that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who announced that he was alive. Then some of those with us went to the tomb and found things just as the women had described. But him they did not see." And he said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are, how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets spoke. Was it not necessary that the Messiah should suffer these things and enter into his glory?" Then, beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them what referred to him in all the scriptures. As they approached the village to which they were going, he gave the impression that he was going on farther. But they urged him, "Stay with us, for it is nearly evening and the day is almost over." So he went in to stay with them. And it happened that, while he was with them at table, he took bread, said the blessing, broke it, and gave it to them. With that their eyes were opened and they recognized him, but he vanished from their sight. Then they said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he spoke to us on the way and opened the scriptures to us?" So they set out at once and returned to Jerusalem, where they found gathered together the 11 and those with them who were saying, "The Lord has truly been raised and has appeared to Simon." Then the 2 recounted what had taken place on the way and how he was made known to them in the breaking of the bread. So what are some things that strike you from hearing this? Word, phrase.
For me, it was something they felt in our hearts. Like after he was revealed to them, they're like, yeah, like we felt it. We didn't like realize it. And I think that's how a lot of journeys and encounters start. There's just something, they feel something.
Yeah. That's good. I like the heart piece. That's great.
I was thinking about that they didn't recognize it was him. Like their eyes were unable to see that it was him. And it was God. He could make that happen.
Yeah.
But I just think about but they were with him for 3 years. How how did they not know it was him?
Mm-hmm.
Especially when he was running off all the scriptures and tying it to him. How did they not? So I guess, yeah, if we apply it to our life now, how do we not know it's him?
Right. And how do the people we're serving not know it's him?
What is keeping us from seeing?
What is
Right.
keeping us from seeing him?
Mm-hmm.
Are we in the same boat? And I'm saying, how did they not know it was him?
Yeah.
But are we the same?
Mm-hmm.
That there's something blocking our vision.
Yeah. Or like, what are those instances, like in our ministry or in our work, where we're like, I can't find Christ in this. Like, where
Where
he
is
can't
he?
be in here. He can't be in here. Like, yeah, where is he?
Where is he? Yeah.
And I kind of, to follow up with that, I've had a couple of instances where, we had somebody come to the church who appeared to be homeless, no shoes. It was early spring, and she rode a bus. So she's walking the streets with no shoes on. And she came, I think I saw her in a short period of time, maybe within a 2-week, 3-week period of time. I probably saw her 4 or 5 times at the church. And one day that I was there with her, one of the parishioners gave her a pair of shoes. And I saw her one time after that, and then she was barefoot again. And then she was gone. And I just sit there and I think about that and I go, was that Christ? Was that supposed to be opening, my heart? Was I supposed to be seeing her and doing something that I didn't do? And so I wonder sometimes if there aren't people in our lives, we're talking about us being the ones to bring it to someone else. Well, maybe there's someone else that's supposed to be bringing us to a fuller love of Christ or whatever.
And you just saying that made me think back to Mass today, that reading. I mean, the line that the priest brought up in his homily, like, do you not know that you are a temple of the Holy Spirit? And how many times do we not recognize each other as that? It's not just a me thing, it's a we thing. We're a community, we're all baptized into this. We're all carrying the Holy Spirit, and like, what a charge we have with that. And it's amazing. It's good.
So I guess the question is, who's doing the accompaniment?
Right.
Okay, say that one.
Yeah.
Who's supposed to be doing it? Is it really me? Or is there somebody out there that's
Accompanying, that's
circle.
I think it's a mutual accompaniment, is the way I would see it. I think we're all accompanying each other in different ways. We talked about kind of the reciprocity of like someone who's farther, by their definition, on their faith journey with someone who's maybe just starting out. But there's that mutual accompaniment, right? Like they accompany them to a deeper relationship, and they're also seeing like, oh, this is the process. Like, and there's that mutual reciprocity of the accompaniment.
Just look at Chad's witness.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and yes. Why isn't the parish doing this? Wait, am I supposed to be doing that? And like that too. And how are we as a parish community accompanying, or how are we even accompanying people that we don't realize we should be accompanying, like one another, our catechists or our fellow staff members? There's just so much there, I think. Our families, our friends who maybe are or aren't in church. How are we accompanying them to do that too? So I'm using this, as many people do, as a model of accompaniment. And there's 4 things that I want to kind of break out with you a little bit. Things that when I was reading this anew again, that really struck me and I want to just kind of drive home, is that Jesus approaches them and he listens and asks questions. Like we said, that Jesus has the power to say, like, he could make himself not as visible or more visible, right? But I love that he goes to meet them and isn't just like, hey, it's me. Like, how you're looking and you're like, but women were at the tomb and he wasn't there, and he said that on the 3rd day he was going to rise and he's not there. He could have just been like, hi, I'm here. Like, let's get to this work of evangelization. Let's go tell people about it. But he walks with them. He listens to them. He hears their accounts of what happened. And then he asks those questions, like, oh, so tell me about what happened. And they're like, what? How do you not know what happened? Like, everybody knows what happens. And I think, when I think of my own ministry, I have a little bit of background in catechesis too. When I was in the ECHO program with Notre Dame, like, I was charged with doing youth RCIA, and in my opinion, it's one of the most challenging things because I was a cradle Catholic, right? I was baptized as a baby. I was raised in the Catholic Church. Like, that just seemed, it was like a thing that I was never exposed to before until I was charged with catechizing these young people. And I'd be like, oh, I have this perfect lesson plan. This is what I'm going to teach them. And once I teach them this, they're going to be perfect. They're going to know everything. And it's just that recognition of like, I have this lesson plan, but they're not getting what I'm saying. Am I not saying? I'm saying it like straightforward. Like, they should know what I'm saying. But it's that walking with them. It's that, okay, we're going to have to talk about this in a different way. Maybe ask them what's going on in their life. Like, how could they see this relating to? And it's that accompaniment of like, how do we re-talk about this or talk about this differently, and in order to bring people with us or to walk with them. And I love that they unpack, like Jesus unpacks the scripture with them. They share those stories. He walks them through that. He's like, you've heard this before. Think back to when you've heard this before. Doesn't this make sense that this is how this should go? And he kind of walks them through it slowly. And then, of course, the sharing of a meal as equals. There's just that moment of fellowship and community that he has with them and how important that is with accompaniment. One of my favorite events on my parish staff is our staff Christmas party, because it's just an opportunity for us to, one, we get out of the office, which is great, and two, it's just we enjoy each other's company and we share a meal together. And it's usually just, we're always running from meeting to meeting or program and ministry event and all those things, but it's just an opportunity for us to just be together. And how are we just being with people? I think that's a big step with accompaniment. And then I love that they recognize that it's Jesus and they don't want to keep it to themselves. They're like, oh, we gotta go back and tell them. Like, they walked 7 miles and then in the scripture you hear, and they immediately went back to return to Jerusalem to go tell them what happened. And there's that urgency. They encountered Christ. Christ accompanied them in that, and they want to share that with others. So there's that evangelization, that missionary moment that comes from this. And having an encounter with Jesus has a transformative effect on us. And we want to share that. So how do we do that? Like, it's easy to read about accompaniment when you're like, oh, they're literally walking on a road. That's pretty obvious. Okay, I can see how accompaniment works there. But how do we do it in an age where people are connected, but not really connected? They're connected, and we could all be sitting at our, yes, we could all be sitting at a table all on our phones. Or there was I can't remember where I saw the article, but there was an article where a photographer took photos of people in just their everyday interactions, but removed the cell phones, like photoshopped the cell phones out of their hands. And like, it's daunting to see the amount that people are just on their phones. Like, there would be like people at the playground, and then like the two moms are just sitting looking at this, or there's a family at the dinner table and everybody's just looking at their hand. I mean, the phones are gone,
Right.
but it's just, we're trying to connect, but not connecting with one another. So how do we do this? And I think the first place to start is to figure out where people are on social media. So we need to figure out the reality of social media in how our parishioners are using it, how people in general are using it, how our friends are using it, our family, how we're using it. It takes that time we need to see, where are people spending this time? Whoops, sorry. So, to start, I kind of just want to do a little bit of stats with you on the use of social media. So this is from Pew Research Center, and this is the percent of adults who say they will use these platforms on their phone. So you can see that among adults in the United States, Facebook is pretty prevalent. 69% of people say that they're on Facebook. That's a lot of people, if you think of it. Like, think of 69% of your parish community. Think of 69% of your family. That's a high percentage. That's more than half. And you'll see that the other avenues of social media as well they're getting there. They're growing. You see that the trends, as time has gone by, it continues to increase. And then when you look at our younger generations, you can see where they're spending that time as well. It's more prevalent. There's a larger percent of them on social media. So how do we accompany people if they're there? So the top numbers are their age, and then the percentage of folks that are on it. So you'll see that Snapchat's super popular among younger crowds, but then you see also how like the 25 to 29 range, it's also really popular. I think of my friends, they're all on it, we're all on it. There are times where I've become more aware of it as I've been like preparing for this and stuff, and even just in my interactions with people, or if I'm out at a restaurant, like you just see, people are just constantly on their phone. And I think the big thing for us to remember with social media is, look at the name of what it is, social media. So people are striving to be social, like that's their need, right? They're striving for that connectedness, but they might not necessarily be getting the best.
Surprised Twitter to that low.
Yeah, I know, is that interesting?
Considering how much it drives social politics and everything else.
Yeah, I know, it's really, I was really surprised by that as well, actually. And like, I mean, YouTube I get, but YouTube is just different. Yeah, it's just a
I
different.
think it has to do, like, with the politics and stuff, the age groups that use Twitter versus the age groups that don't. And like YouTube, I get that people are on it watching, but they're not.
They're not like necessarily
Yeah.
engaging.
Yeah, and I would
Yes.
say, like, I know with my kids, like my teens, it's Instagram and Snapchat.
Yep.
Facebook is like,
So
there's no
for the
age-
dinosaurs.
Well, they
yeah.
have, like, a lot of them have Facebook accounts, but they don't ever like post anything on their Facebooks. It's all about Instagram
Yes.
and their,
I do it for the gram. Sorry.
and the Finsta.
I was in the school minister.
Yeah.
Now, is TikTok not on here because it just wasn't asked
Yes,
about?
it wasn't asked about yet.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't there yet. But yeah, no, that's the new thing.
Yeah.
I know, and
Yeah.
yes, I follow some church social media people, and they're like, TikTok's the new thing. Here's the algorithm and all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm not ready. It's like I just got a handle on this stuff. That's the other thing with social media. It's hard to keep up.
Yeah.
What's, go ahead, I'm sorry. I just want to know what the one dot is past on YouTube. The one dot at the end. Is
Oh,
that
that's
25,
the
29 on there?
25.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Yes.
Sorry.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I also wonder if Snapchat, Instagram, because I have, kids in that age group. Snapchat, Instagram, maybe not YouTube so much. That those are more,
Communicative?
like you have your group that you're talking to. Yes, you can put it out there, but I think Twitter is more out there.
Yes.
But
It's a bit more
Snapchat,
intimate.
it's, yeah.
For, I mean, intimate as intimate
with
can be.
500 friends or
Yes.
whatever, but it's,
Yes.
you can limit it. Twitter seems to be more, I'm putting it out there.
Yeah.
And yes,
Well, I mean,
again, you can limit it, but
Even with what you said on the last slide, that she had the most open, when I had a social media theory class, and the most open system that you have, besides 4chan, which is a really dangerous place, for social media is Reddit. And did you see how low Reddit was on
Yeah.
that table?
it's
It
so
was-
open.
Right, because
Yes.
you put something out there and any user
Can see it.
can see it, can comment, can participate in that.
And I think that's a good thing to point out too, especially with the younger generation, especially teenagers. Even with Instagram, they have their Instagram account that is more open to a bigger group
Others.
of people. And then a lot of the teenagers in high school at least then have their Finsta account, where it's a smaller group of people that they actually will let them see the real them.
stuff.
Well, and
Yes.
now
The stuff that
there's,
they don't want everyone to know, like, that's where the pictures of, like, if they don't have makeup on go, or
Yes,
that kind of
yes.
thing.
And it's the interesting thing, if you think about just what happens on these social media spheres, right? Snapchat, it's a picture, and you can put filters on it, and it's quick, and it's instant, and it could be a conversation. It could be like, oh, here's my face, here's your face, okay, cool. Or like, here's a video of my cat, or all those things. And then there's Instagram, which is, I can make this picture look really cool, and I do it for the gram, and like, here's this really artsy tree, and it's pictures, and like, that draws people in, and it's not necessarily as me even, and I can put a filter on it, and I can do these editing things to make it a certain thing. With Twitter, it's like, okay, I have 280 characters to craft the perfect witty statement. And that's like a lot of pressure on people. And with YouTube, it's video watching, so it's a little bit different too. And then Facebook is just, it's just something that younger generations look at as, oh, that's what my parents do. That's what grandma does. That's what, I don't want to be on there because adults are on there, type of a thing. So it's just interesting to kind of just sit and reflect on these different ways in which people are seeking connection and working to be social with one another.
Okay, so I have a Facebook account that I look at about once every couple of weeks, which will be too. Snapchat and Instagram do not have advertisements or do have advertisements on it?
Yes.
Yes,
They do?
Yes.
So all of them do then, okay.
Mhm. Snapchats tend to be, if you go onto your community page, then it has them at the top. And then Instagrams, as you scroll, the advertisements will pop up, or
So similar to Facebook in that sense because they're paired
a
now.
lot of kids these days
The youths.
they don't even scroll through their Instagram.
Nope,
They
they
just
just
get
use
on
the
and they watch
story.
the stories.
Watch the stories.
And if you're watching your stories after you reach the end of someone's, an
The
ad
next
pops
one,
up.
yep.
And then it takes you to the next one.
Okay.
'Cause I
Or you
think-
get a few people's and then there's an ad.
Yeah, because I think even a
It's
few
fascinating.
months ago, the ads weren't nearly as big in the stories.
And that's the thing too, it's constantly changing. And now there's TikTok. So it's like, how do we keep up?
Yeah.
So even just being aware that people are on these things, if that's where they are, and kind of to your point where you said, it's something I look at every couple of weeks. Here's kind of a little bit of how people are using these things on a day-to-day basis. So if you look at the dark blue, that's the percentage of people that are going there multiple times a day. Not just once, multiple times. And that could be anywhere from 2 to 200. You know, like there were times in my life where like there was a moment of silence. I'd be like, oh, I'm just gonna scroll. It's like, what? And like so absent-minded too.
Now,
Yeah.
this doesn't specify age for this one, does it? It just says adults.
This is adults, yeah.
Okay, I was just curious.
So again, 18 and up, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, but I can tell you I'm 24, and I can tell you among my age group that this is not
Right,
accurate.
yeah.
Yeah.
Especially looking at the Instagram one.
Right.
So,
So I would take adults probably more in the like maybe 20.
well, adults is weighted because it's such a large group of people.
Yes, all humans.
Yeah.
Except for the youth. No.
Right.
But it's just interesting to even see like multiple times a day. And with Twitter, it's getting less and less. And I wonder if that is because of like you said, that there's a lot of political things on there, or people just don't want to engage there, or they're realizing that like my photos are what matter now. Like I need to present myself in this picturesque way.
And you, go ahead. You have questions?
I was just gonna say, it seems like they keep talking about Facebook and the ads and how, you know, the political stuff and all of that kind of stuff, and they keep seeming to point that Facebook is a problem for the youth because they don't know how to tell if something is true or false. But it doesn't sound to me like Facebook is necessarily where they're always at from that previous screen.
Correct.
It seems like the older adults who should be able to tell what's real and not are the ones that are on Facebook more.
Well, on the Instagram, I had Instagram ads for Abby Smith for mayor, which is the mayor candidate who just lost in Kokomo. So they're doing just as many, the ads on Instagram are just as, if not more, catered than what I found on Facebook. Side note, YouTube/Twitch, because Twitch is so popular now. It's also got a big percentage for the less often, but that's because I think that the way that it's more used these days is we're used to cable being people jump on and watch their show a couple times a week, and now they do it with, I have a lot of kids who watch a show on Thursday nights on Twitch, and they'll jump on and watch it live, and if they miss it live, it gets posted to YouTube, so then they'll watch it on YouTube during the week, and that's all that they really use that for.
I would say they're probably not being on YouTube as many times a day, but they're spending more time. When they do, go on YouTube, they're on there for
So, These are just some, I know that there was a speaker, John Blevins. I'm sorry if he sees this. And I had been listening to his thing as well, and I know that
Cover your ears,
he
John.
said this, we have the most connected yet disconnected generation. And people are more connected to the global world than they are to their closest neighbors. So I'm more likely to know what's happening in the United States than I am with Susie next door. And it's sad. And, it's just interesting to think, like, we have these tools to keep us so connected, but how are we connecting with people there? So what do we do? We're going to process this together. But we're called to be there, right? The Pope asks us to accompany people, to meet people where they are, and from those stats we can see that's where they are. That's where our people are. Where people are spending time, multiple minutes, hours a day. Excuse the amount of words on the slide. I know that's not proper PowerPoint protocol, but he just says really great things, and I highlight kind of the key points. So in preparing for this, I looked a lot at Evangelii Gaudium because it's the call to holiness and call to accompany others, and he just has such great work in there. And I love this opening line in this personal accompaniment in the process of growth, that in a culture paradoxically suffering from anonymity and at the same time obsessed with the details of other people's lives, shamelessly given over to morbid curiosity, the church must look more closely and sympathetically at others whenever necessary. And the church will have to initiate everyone, priests, religious, and laity, into this art of accompaniment, which teaches us to remove our sandals before the sacred ground of the other. With that opening line, you just see that we as a church need to recognize that our people are at the root of this, striving for connection. They're looking, they're seeking that social interaction, and these are the tools that society is giving them or telling them to use to do that. And we as a church need to recognize that and be sympathetic with that, and then in turn accompany them and respond. And we all have to do it, whether we're priests, religious laity, parents, aunts, uncles, friends, youth ministers, all those things. So we need to see this as an opportunity and as our mission territory. And that our main goal in all of this accompaniment, even in the world of social media, is to lead them closer to God. That's the point. We're pilgrims on a journey to God. And we need to bring Christ into that. So this whole document, just go and read it. It's just so good. I read it multiple times, and it's just every time there's new insight, and it's good. But in order to do that, just like Christ did with the two on the road to Emmaus, we need to listen. And it's not just hearing, it's listening, it's asking those questions, it's reciprocal communication, it's an openness of heart that leads to an encounter. So it's not just me saying, so you're on social media, why are you spending all your time there? It's like, oh, so like how do you engage with others there? Who do you follow on social media? What type of people are you following? Like when you post, what are you posting there? It's having those conversations. It's not a shame thing. It's not like, wow, you spend way too much time there. Like, okay, we all know we spend a lot of time there, and sometimes we go through ebbs and flows of what that looks like. But it's really engaging in that conversation. How are we using this as people of faith? And we see that on the road to Emmaus. So we need to, I think when we think of accompanying others with social media is, do we ask those questions? Are we asking people how they're engaging or what they're seeking or how it makes them feel when they, like, are they posting things just for likes? Are they engaging in conversations? Are they asking questions if people post things that they don't understand? Are they just communicating with each other there? Are they interacting in person or with other things? So it's asking those questions to get us all thinking and reflecting on that. Because some people just never have been asked. Like it's a mindless thing. Like I'm just on social media because my friends are on there, so I figure that's where I need to be. But it's like, what is this doing for me? Is it doing anything for me? Is there other ways that I should be spending my time? And it always begins, and so genuine, what's the post acronym? Sorry. Genuine spiritual accompaniment always begins and flourishes in the context of service to the mission of evangelization. So when we talk about how we ourselves use social media, and if we encounter or engage and talk about faith there, are we open to evangelizing people on our social media? Are we open to walking with people, to educating them, to asking them, letting them ask us questions, to talking about our faith, to sharing our story, to sharing God's story? Are we using this tool? Like, this is a tool. This is actually a gift in a lot of ways. If people are spending their time there, it's also like a free range for us, right? That's an open territory for us to share the faith. Like, if people are there, I can just be another, like, I can be, the way I interact with them and talk about my faith could be a touch point for them. They could read something that they wouldn't normally read about the faith. They could be reminded of, I went to Mass on Sunday, and like, Father talked about the need to like reflect on what is my attachment to my possessions, and then maybe I bring something like, so I cleaned my closet this week because Father was talking about how we have a lot of excess, and like that led me to like think about maybe I need to simplify my life, and then they read that like maybe I need to simplify my life. Oh yeah, Father did talk about that. So how are we using this to connect people back to our worship, to our liturgy, to our faith, to our tradition? So, just some topics for us to discuss. We don't have to answer all the questions. Just things for you to think about as well. Just because social media is this thing that's constantly changing, and it's hard for us sometimes because of the way in which we see how others interact, where it's like, there is no dialogue, it's just my opinion or no opinion, I'll just unfollow you, and there isn't that much engagement. How can we maybe make a commitment to being more open to listening on social media, to engaging in dialogue? It's meant to be social, which means conversation, which means give and take, which means listening. And how do we see our interactions with other people as happening on sacred ground? If we're talking about the faith, if we're two or more together, it's sacred. That's an opportunity for us to encounter Christ. Christ be with us in that. And do you see social media as an environment for accompaniment? Can it be a tool for this to occur? So just some things for you to think about in that. And if anyone has any, as they read these questions, they have any insights they'd like to share. Or if you've never felt it.
I got a 16-year-old and a 15-year-old. I've never talked to them about this, about social media. They're both on Instagram and Snapchat. So I guess this session has helped me looking at these questions, dive into their life, but also use it as a tool to spread the word, like you said, to accompany not only my kids, but other kids.
And I like what you said there, like, I know they're there, but I haven't talked to them about it, and maybe it's just an opportunity for you to be like, so what's on it? Like, can you explain Instagram to me? I know you guys are using it, like, can we talk about that? And just having that conversation. That's great. And I'm not saying that everybody, like, we all need to be there. I'm just saying these are tools that we can use for evangelization, I guess. I mean, everybody has their own views on social media. I'm not pushing, like Facebook's not giving me a cut if you all sign up for Facebook. Wish, no. But
I just think
think about it.
You gotta be hip, you gotta be cool. You know, for kids to keep on, following you on something like this, it needs to be I don't know, something catchy, but not disrespectful as well.
Right.
I would love to understand that. Is there good Snap and Instagram accounts that are out there that are doing this kind of stuff?
Yeah, so it's interesting that you bring that up because this morning I was talking to the artist that's out in the vendor hall, and she was like, oh, you're talking about social media. I gave up my social media like a year ago. And I'm like, that's so interesting because I follow so many Catholic artists, like Sacrilegious. I know about them because they're on my Instagram, and like my friends have them and stuff like that. And I've noticed as I was sitting and reflecting on my conversation with her, like I've gone through this process of pruning of what I intake on social media. Like if you would scroll through my Instagram right now, it'd be like my friends, and then it's like, oh, Catholic artist, this one does painting, this one does images of the saints, this one does t-shirts that have Catholic stuff on it, and I'm like, it's just all like, so there's a lot of really beautiful artists on there that I've found, and there's a bunch of, I mean, there's like Ascension Press that'll have like short videos, there's priests and bishops that'll have pages and things, and what I love about like the way in which like I encounter these Catholic artists on there, it's like they have this image, but they also share like a part of their story. Like, oh, I drew this picture of Therese and I painted it this way because as I was sitting with her story of a soul, I reflected on my own littleness and all this stuff. And so there's meat to it. Or if I look at this image, I'm like, what is this? Like, what's drawing me in here? Or there's this one artist. It's amazing. I'll tell you her, I don't know her handle right now off the top of my head, but she's currently painting pictures of Jesus's childhood. So like there's pictures of like Mary walking Jesus, and it's just like how it reminds me of like God became man, and that's cool, and he was a baby, like, and it just shows like the fatherhood of Joseph, and like he's like playing with him or showing himself in the wood shop, and it's just like he's making, or she is making God tangible, and like bringing those things for me to reflect on too. Like, yeah, we hear about like, yeah, Joseph was a carpenter, okay, sure, so Jesus probably worked with him, you know, he learned carpentry and stuff, but like having that image to kind of go with it and like reflecting on like, how do I relate with St. Joseph? Do I? Like, oh, there was this father-son relationship there, and like, so it's really, there's a lot of really good things out there. So yes, and that was a long response. There are great things out there, but it's finding them.
Right.
Yeah.
So I remember 6 years ago, roughly, not that social media has only been out there for 6 years, but I remember that there was big talk at the church I was at that point in time about catechists being able to communicate with kids through social media, and it was like absolutely not. So this is not talking about that. This is just simply we put it out there, and maybe they look for us and friend us or not friend us.
Not even that.
Well, we can't.
You can't.
Yes.
You still can't.
No.
Okay.
Right.
You can't have a personal account.
No.
Kids
Correct.
connect.
But it'd be
you
like a
can't have
parish.
The St. Elizabeth Seton
Okay.
Yes.
handle,
Yeah.
Yes.
and they
Yes.
can follow that way.
Right.
It has to be a public
Or if there's like,
account.
if your youth ministry has one,
Yeah.
it's not.
It's not the Kristen Swift.
Yes. Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's not what I'm saying. It's more of a part of the accompaniment is knowing where your people are so that you can kind of accompany them in their use of it. So not like you have to be their friend, but in turn, reflecting on how you're using it personally or ministerially. Like say you have a group for your catechists, so they can share like, this is what I did for my third graders or whatever type thing. So it could be that communal interaction as well. Or if there's like a diocesan office that shares like, here's some resources for talking about Lent with young people or with your families or things like that. So like I work at the parish level, so everything I do is in the name of the parish. I don't have, and it's connected to like my professional account. So the ones I was showing you are my personal account. So I have multiple Facebook pages because diocesan regulations. So I'm not saying go be friends with kids on social media. Don't do that for a safe environment, of course. But engage in conversations with them about what they're doing there. And in turn reflect on how you're using it, or if you're not, or if you want to. It's a discernment in that as well. So, just reiterating, church will have to initiate everybody. That's us. Woo! And the Pope is asking us to do this. But how? And there's his Twitter, because he's cool like that. And this is our mission field. Just kind of reiterating what I said before. And we're called to meet people there. And social media is our new Areopagus. That's such a hard word. But kind of thinking of St. Paul when he's giving his sermon to people. It's our place for evangelization. It's a place for us to share Christ's story with other people and engage in those conversations. So this is what we can do. Just some simple, very practical things that like has helped me to understand my role as a church communicator. I know it's kind of small, so I'll kind of go through them all. Kind of got on a roll when I was typing it up. But share experience from your Sunday worship. Share like, Father said this in his homily and it really touched me. Or we sang one of my favorite hymns today and here are the lyrics and like why that spoke to me. Or if you work at the parish level, because I think this is for pastoral leaders, like maybe you offer like reflection questions on like the themes for the readings and things like that. Share scripture and how you feel God is speaking to you. I follow a bunch of different things that offer like reflections on the daily readings, like Word Among Us, Blessed is She, all those different things. And so I read Blessed is She every morning. It's just a personal thing that I do. And what I've been doing, and it's funny as I look back on my Facebook feed, I'm like, oh, I guess that started 3 months ago, and it's just like every day is my like little tidbit that I liked from the reading. But just a side note on that, my dad, I talk to him on the phone usually every week. My family's in Wisconsin, I'm in Florida. It's just a different thing. But my dad called me one day and he's like, oh, so I went and visited Greg Bowe, and he's one of my childhood best friend's dads, and I haven't encountered him in years, but he follows me on Facebook, and he's currently fighting cancer. And my dad was like, oh, I went and visited Greg, and you know, before I left, he said, I've been following Lexi on social media, and my dad's like, okay, and he's like, and she posts these reflections every day, and I don't know if it's helping, and I haven't been to church in a while, but it's bringing me a lot of peace. And I'm like, I haven't talked to this man in like 15 years, but simply me sharing something is having an impact. It's giving him that a little touch point of an encounter with the Word, with just processing that, with reflecting on that. And it's interesting too, like I just reposted something this past week, and it was a quote that was like, we can be both a masterpiece and a work in progress at the same time. And I think with the culture of social media, we're so focused on showing our perfect self that we're all just longing for someone else to say like, I'm not perfect, I don't have it all together, and I'm working on it, and that's okay. And it's funny because I reposted it a year later, and it's still got 13 shares. And I like looked at how people were interacting with it on my friends' pages just to kind of see. And like, there were multiple people that were like, I needed to read that today. Like, thank you so much for sharing that, like really spoke to me here, like, amen. Like that's the power and the gift that this can be. I mean, it's not all scary and bad, like, but it can have that profound impact, and we don't even know the reach. I mean, yes, we get the analytics, and we can see, like, we can analyze that, but like, we don't know what that's doing for someone's heart. It's more than just a number. Can you share a quote that inspired you, whether it's from a saint, a homily, somebody that's not associated with the church, like, you know, just something that maybe strives you to be a better person. You can share a glory story, like, we all work in ministry, and I think sometimes, I don't know about you, but I know I sometimes can get caught up in the mess and the paperwork and the, oh, there was Sally, she complained about that again, and like just get caught up in that. But then there's those one-on-one encounters where someone comes up to you and just says, thank you so much for putting Father's homilies online. My daughter, who doesn't even go to this parish, listens to them throughout the week, and she said it's some of the best stuff she hears all week. I'm like, okay, who knew? Like, thank you, organist. Like, we don't know the power of what we can do. And just those one-on-one interactions with people. So it's not just what we can do online, but how does what we do online enhance what we're doing in person, or lead us to what we're doing in person? So maybe you have a friend, or maybe you're friends with a coworker on Facebook or something, they post something and you can say, oh, so I saw that your daughter got married last weekend. Like, how was the wedding? Like, where do they live? What's going on? And just sharing life with other people. So that's another thing that we can do. Sharing something good that's happening in your parish community, in your lives. Share about a saint that inspired you. When I first got my job in communications at the parish, nobody had the job before, so I was like starting from ground zero, and I was like, I don't know how do we as a church communicate with our parishioners on Facebook? Like, yeah, I can tell them like, oh, potluck this day, mass this day, this is happening, but like, it can be so much more than that. So the first thing I did in my first year was incorporate the sanctoral cycle into it. So I would share about the saint of the day and maybe something about their life, or what they're the patron of, or a prayer that's attributed to them. And it not only taught me so much about the saints and how their paths are all different, but it also gave people touch points on that where they're like, oh, I didn't know I'm a doctor. I didn't know that was the patron of doctors, and just giving them those touch points. We have such a rich and beautiful tradition, like it's so good to share it. And something that could be a little bit more vulnerable, we can accompany people through prayer. Like it doesn't have to be a physical closeness thing. Like I have a friend whose dad just found out that he has prostate cancer, and she put a thing on Facebook. So like shower us with prayers, and like how we can just show support through that. Or I have friends that will go to weekly adoration and they'll post on their Facebook, like, how can I pray for you today? And you can just send them a private message, and you know that you're, like, there's the peace that comes from knowing that your prayer is being offered. Or maybe you know someone's going through a hard time and they're like, I don't even know how to pray right now. And you're like, well, let me accompany you with that. So accompany people with prayer through the use of social media. Anything that came to mind that you think you could do, like, besides what I put up here? Anything you've seen that you've done? We can move on, that's fine. I know it's post-lunch. Both? Yeah.
When you do that, like, we have the Instagram page, and when John Blevin was here, he helped me out a lot with it, but one thing that he said was a great thing you can do is, because you get a chance to make some kind of live posts on most of these social media accounts, so make a live post whenever you have an event that day. Make it one earlier in the day, one during the event, and one after the event, thanking everyone for coming out. And he said if you've got the waivers for it, because you have the waivers for it, but we're going to do it for the first time here in a couple weeks. One of our youth who is really involved is actually doing those story posts.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So empowering that's cool. Empowering people in your ministry.
We're making cookies for prison ministry, Kairos cookies, and he is going to put a purple bandana on and go by the name Prison Mike, and which apparently is a video that is making the rounds.
Of course.
But yeah, and invite everyone to help out with making prison cookies.
Nice. And what a good witness that is, right? That the kids are engaging in this ministry outside of themselves, right? And showing the parish community that is a great thing too. One thing, I know I started with the saint thing, but something I do every weekend, and it seems kind of mundane, but every Saturday at about 11:30, I have it scheduled, I post the readings for that Sunday so that the vigil people can see them. And then for our Sunday folks, and I either put like a question or a reflection question based on the theme of the readings for the weekend, or I'll link to the USCCB so they can read them, but I give them the citations of the readings for the weekend in hopes that people maybe like open them up and spend some time with them either that day or before going to Mass, or once they get to Mass and they're there early to open the book and like read them, or to go back throughout the week and be like, oh, that's what we read this weekend. Just to give them an encounter with Scripture that they might not know even where to start. So it can be used as that tool to get people in touch with different things. And my big thing that kind of drives my ministry is being a voice of hope in the noisy world of social media, because there's so much that we're being bombarded with of we need to look this way, we need to think this way, all these different things, but we need to bring the story of Christ there too. We need to have that hope. We need to remind people that there's a church community that they can be a part of that's here to support them in the joys and the sorrows, in the crosses, the suffering, but also the life, like all of it, the mess, the good, the bad. So, just checking my time. Do you know what time this goes, Jones? 3:30. Okay, cool. I'm gonna kind of bust through. But, so based on the amount of time people are there, we can see that they're longing for that connection and they're looking for witness. People are longing for authenticity. And they're looking for an opportunity that will make them say, I'm not alone. And that's the point of social media. So we're not alone in this. We're not alone in our Christian journey. The disciples weren't alone. Jesus wasn't alone. He hung out with a bunch of people. The saints weren't alone. Jonathan was talking about. And our church, we have a community. We celebrate the liturgy together. We have our priests that journey with us. We have our ministers. We have our volunteers, all those people. So each year, Pope talks on World Communications Day, and I just have a few, there's going to be a lot of words, and I apologize, but I kind of focus on things. And in his 53rd message, he talked about the social network and how social media can be seen as an extension of our encounter with one another. And it kind of brings back, so he talks about the image of the body and the members, and how it's all interconnected. And our communities, we're all interconnected, and social media and the internet and those social networks can be used as a resource for communion. Like they're meant to bring us together. When we're using them well, we're being brought together. So the way in which we use it matters, obviously. I hope that's what I'm driving home in this whole talk. And that is what determines whether or not it's a resource for accompaniment. So it's there, but how we use it. So we need to share stories and experiences of beauty or suffering with people that are distant from us. But it also allows us the opportunity to pray together and to seek out the good and discover what unites us. So it's that resource which can bring us together. And I love that, even the language that's used on social media, oh, do you want to share this? You're sharing it with people. I think sometimes we do mindless sharing. We're like, oh, I'm just going to share this. But even adding just your own thoughts or what was stirred up in you with that is also a way in which we can share a little bit more of our story with one another. And I love that he says beauty or suffering. Because that's life, right? There's the good and the bad. There's the joy and there's the cross, but there's the resurrection. So how are we sharing all of that with one another? And it's scary because it demands us to be a little bit vulnerable, but there's also so much fruit that can come from that. And we can in this way move from diagnosis to treatment. So people are they're looking for this encounter, and it's opening the way for dialogue, for encounter, for smiles and expressions of tenderness. So you have those opportunities when people share stuff that's maybe not going so well, to show that you can be tender with them, that you can accompany them, you're willing to go there with them in the tough stuff. And it's where it's not just about likes, but an amen, so that they believe in that you believe in what you're presenting, and they too, and it can lead us back to Christ. So I have some closing reflections for you all, and I'm just going to play with my phone really high. My favorite song, because as I was sitting in Mass the other day, as the post, oh, that's okay,
We have to get
sorry.
back to get someone back in time to work Master.
Oh, thank you. No, you're good. Thank you. Any card or anything? You're good.
You have a card?
Sure. Just in case any of you have questions or want the PowerPoint or the resource.
Thank you.
Yeah, no pressure on social media.
Yeah. They can follow at Nativity Brandon. Give me some more likes now. But just as we kind of are moving forward with this, I kind of threw a lot at you. And it's just that opportunity for us to kind of reflect on how are we engaging with social media? How are we using that in accompaniment? How can this tool that seems like we're not really journeying with people be used to journey with people? So I just want you guys to take a little bit of time to reflect on how you're using social media to tell your story. We talk about how, the kids are out there putting things that aren't, they put a filter on this, or they're only showing the good, but how are we doing that, or how can we do that? And how are you using it to tell the story? So how are we sharing the gospel there? And I'm going to just play, this seems probably pretty cliche, but the servant song, because I was sitting in Mass the other day, and I've been praying about this presentation a lot, because I'm like, it's tough. I'm still learning how to do all this, and it's not perfect, and it's messy, and it's always changing. But I love the image of the servant song, because it starts by talking about we're pilgrims on a journey. I'll hold the Christ light for you. So being that encounter of hope, and it talks about in times of fear, your joy and sorrow. I'll share all of this with you, and we're pilgrims on a journey together. And it's that reciprocity that's mentioned in the song as well of, will I let you be my servant if I'm being yours? So it's that mutual dependency and communal relationship as well. So as you reflect on this, I'll just exactly. So, you think I'd be more tech savvy than a media person? Hey, I helped her with her PowerPoint next door. So. Okay, well, technology's not gonna work for me. You're all familiar with the song, right? Okay, so next time you hear it, you can think of this. So these are just some questions for you to reflect on as you kind of move forward. So just to reiterate, it's not the only tool for accompaniment, but it is a tool, and we can use it, and we can use it well. And as a church, we're called to use it. It's a tool for the new evangelization. It's a tool for us to get the message of the resurrection out and our community and all of that. And my biggest thing, I have my takeaways just because I need to remember that, is that it's not, it can be the starting point, and it can be something that helps to sustain the accompaniment, like maybe it's accompaniment from a distance, but that shouldn't be our only tool. We should be engaging with each other in other ways as well and inviting them into deeper relationship into that walk. So we can think back to the road to Emmaus, ask those questions, engage with one another, listen. I think one of the hardest things to do when we accompany people is to not have that response right away if people are struggling. It's just like, I'm just here, I'm just present with you. And sometimes that can be all they need. And sometimes even just knowing that, even via social media, that like you're just there, you're accessible, is enough. So yeah, that's what I have for you. So thank you.
Thank you.
If you have any questions or want to contact me or want a copy of my PowerPoint, because I know there were quotes on there that were long and things, you can have my card. If you don't want it, that's okay too. Thank you. Just, if you want to follow my parish, we're really awesome. But any takeaways that you guys have from this?
You guys have a YouTube channel?
We do. So we do, for our weekend announcements, we have screens in our church.
Yeah.
So we do like, here's what's coming up this week, and that's part of my job as well. So that's mainly what's on our YouTube channel, as well as like our pastor's Easter message, welcome message, Christmas message, and then for our pastoral appeal, we do a parish-specific video for the bishop's appeal. So those are on there as well.
Is that your app?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. If you search Nativity Brandon in the Apple or Google Play
Okay.
Store, you'll find it.
Yeah, we have an app too, but I don't think it's been very active.
It's crazy. I don't know how we did it, but we have like over 2,000 downloads of our app. But it's great because my pastor uses it and like he's like, no, you guys should download this because our campus is pretty big, like this, not as big as this, but we just have meetings that are always scattered or like, oh, we got moved this week because sacrament prep's happening and they need the social hall. So he always reiterates like, you can just open the app and the calendar's right there and find where your meeting is. And he's like, I'm probably the person that uses it the most, but and we have access to different resources on there, like the OCC is on there, but formed.org is on there. Our homilies, our podcast is on there. So things like that. It's cool. Yeah, it's fun. It's also kind of scary because there's just so much, and it's like, how do I curate and get people in touch with it? And that's something that I ask myself every day. People are looking for it, so how do we present ourselves as a place where they should come to for those resources? So what do you all do at your parishes, can I ask?
I'm involved with Alpha
Oh, cool.
program and a few other things, and we've got Connect off of that, but I also, I'm an assistant with religious ed.
Nice.
And I got the first year.
Nice. Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Youth minister. I typecasted him yesterday.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna ask you what you do, but I'm already assuming what I think you do.
Yeah, I think I was the youngest person in the room yesterday, and
I'm not that far ahead of you.
I But the fact that you were willing to typecast me means that you're just a
Yes,
little
well,
bit
I've been
ahead.
typecast, and I was a youth minister for a period of time too, so.
Right, so
Yeah. That camera's still on, great.
it is.
Awesome.
So yeah, now everyone knows your shame.
Yeah.
Typecasting me.
It's gonna be on YouTube somewhere.
And I'm Kristen Swift. I'm here at St. Elizabeth Seton, and I'm the coordinator of religious education, preschool through 5th grade. And yes, I have 3 kids that are like your age, and they're all on social media. I am not. I think
Yeah.
the only one I'm on is like personally
Mhm.
on Twitter,
Okay, nice.
but I don't tweet. Like
You just
stalk.
Yeah.
That's what my Facebook is, I
Yeah.
pretty much
Yeah.
stalk.
Yeah, that's
So
how-
you're a creeper, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, I had to get on it because of my daughter's softball team.
Yeah.
It was the only way they were communicating. But yeah, I am not,
Yeah.
like I guess I've just not gotten over that hurdle of, I don't want everybody knowing everything about me. And I
Yeah.
don't necessarily want to hear their
Right,
opinions
yeah. No,
my
that's-
way, you know, if
Well,
I put
that's-
something out there kind
And
of
that's
thing.
funny then, that Twitter is the one that you're on, because Twitter is the one that's most
Crazy.
opinionated,
Yes.
I was going to say.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I've even opened it.
And that's the other thing too, like
Yeah.
with social media, it's that discernment of how do I want to be here?
Right.
Am I being called to be here? Not everybody, I mean,
Well, again, I'm working with younger,
yeah, it's
Children.
and it's equipping your parents, just
yes.
letting them know, like, this is what's out there.
Yes.
Like, that's the other part of accompaniment too, like,
Yes.
for accompanying our parents that were ministering to their children, like, hey, just
Yes.
so you're aware,
Mhm.
socially, because
Yeah,
some
right.
parents are more engaged with that, some are.
Right. Our youth ministers obviously are all, in there, but yeah, I just,
That's
it. So there's probably things I could be doing, and I probably could put myself out there and say, but I don't have to.
Right.
I prefer
Is it
personal
working for you
contact.
right now?
Seems to be
There
working.
you go, and
Happy person.
that's what you need. And the other thing too,
Yeah.
like, if you have, I mean, your catechist, they can come to you, or if you're like,
They
hey,
know
have
how
you
to
looked up
reach it.
Ascension Press, or like whoever,
Yes,
you know?
I-
Like if they're looking, you can, it's a resource thing, yeah.
Yes, I'll send
It's
them
working.
clips, I'll send them,
Yeah,
these are the apps that I have, these are the
exactly.
things I receive in my inbox,
Mhm.
whatever. So,
Yeah.
yes, I provide resources
Perfect.
for them.
Yeah.
but
Yeah, and that's,
The parents too, but
Mhm.
not, don't follow me on Instagram
Yeah.
for.
yeah.
Don't for me,
Don't
don't
find
me there.
Yeah, the thing that's
Yeah.
struggling with working with it at the parish level too, like, I mean, I have parish accounts, yes, but then like parishioners will add me on Facebook, I'm like, no, like, I don't,
Right.
no.
Yeah.
Like, this is my personal life,
Right.
no.
Yeah.
I run
Right.
into that problem because we have a social media person,
Yeah,
but we have we don't have an Instagram page for the parish.
Mhm.
And I tried posting things on the Facebook page and the youth said, I'm sorry, quote, I'm sorry, I'm not old, is what the youth said.
well, you're getting their parents there to tell the kids to get there,
Yeah.
kind of. But they
Well,
don't know the parents
So
sometimes.
we started the Instagram page, which is just youth ministry. So it's like under my job description, but now the youth that follow our business page, Image Check, also are trying to follow me.
Then you're like, no,
And I'm like, that's a no-no. You
No.
can't.
no.
Yeah.
And there's that, yeah.
And then parents try to follow me. And I'm
And you're
like,
like, no.
this is a no-no per se, but it's
But also,
That's-
like, you're allowed to have your life,
It's a no
yeah.
thank you.
It's a no thank you, yes, and I think that that's appropriate, and
It's
that's
appropriate
that,
to have boundaries.
yes, it's a really good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
We've learned anything else.
it's a toughie, it's a toughie. It's a tough space
Yeah.
to be. So
Yeah.
what do you,
Boundaries.
I got that, like hijacked the conversation, what do you do?
I am catechesis of the Good Shepherd.
Oh, cool, nice.
I do other things, but that's the
The
only,
main,
the ministerial part that I do.
that's cool. Nice.
And I do adult faith formation. So Facebook is good.
Yes, yes, yes. It's interesting, we have a new adult faith formation person, and one of the things she did, which I was like, why have I never thought of that before? Like, that's brilliant. We've been putting out on our parish Facebook, like, these are the topics that we're talking about the next month at RCIA. Any adult is welcome to pop in if they want to like get a refresher.
That's a good idea.
So it's kind of like this like re-evangelization of people, and you're like, huh. And she's like, we had our first adult come. It's like 8 weeks in, but like, if they wouldn't have seen it, they wouldn't have known that this is available to them. Like, and we kind of branded it in the way of like, looking to learn more about your faith, but don't want to commit to a whole program. Like, pop in on Sundays. We're there. Like, just come and get your questions answered and learn more. Like, we did a liturgy 101 the other weekend, and I'm like, that's brilliant. Why have I, like, it's one of those things where you're like, oh, yeah, that's easy. Like, oh, I don't have to create this separate program. I can just invite them to something that's happening, and they can be included in this
Thought of that either,
exclusive
but
RC, right? I know, it's crazy.
It's a lot less reinventing the wheel in there.
I know. Yeah, it's like, oh, I can just invite you to this program that I'm already putting my effort into.
Yeah.
And it exposes them to the RCIA, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll be a sponsor someday. You can just kind of, it's a touch point. You're real and yes. I love catechetical ministry. There's all these little things. And it's beautiful, like, when we can collaborate like that and work together. Cool.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Alexis.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Beautiful day.
Thanks for your, youthful insights. No, just kidding. The TikTok. I'm like, oh, come on. Why does he have to come up with a new thing?
Right. No, that was, as soon as we launched the Instagram account, someone came and said, we should get TikTok. And I was like, you should not. I should learn Instagram before.
Yes, yes. Let's do this well.
I thought TikTok was a little iffy though, isn't it?
That's the one that they're complaining about now. Russia, China's
Yes.
taking over the world with TikTok.
Yes.
Great.
Not necessarily.
The world? No,
That they're,
well, they're claiming that China, it's a Chinese company, is that not correct? And they're collecting data on all the users, so, they're gonna take that data and maybe the next election will be rigged or something, I don't know.
Welcome to the world. Be a voice of hope.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Yeah, I thought that there was something kind of.
Okay.
To be fair,
So,
most of the TikTok users that I know of are
Not
middle
voting.
schoolers doing a dance.
Our middle schoolers
They do
doing a
dance
dance.
challenges.
Not voting.
Oh,
Yes,
right.
yeah.
So-
Well, and you know,
what are the Chinese going to do with that?
Right.
the thing that cracks me up is, I'm sorry, but all of these media places, all of them are collecting data on all of
Yeah.
us. I don't care what they say
You're
or
getting
don't.
it,
yeah.
they're
They
using
can,
it.
they
It's in
can
the
figure
fine
out-
print
I
somewhere.
mean, that's how they get all the advertising geared towards you, because
Or
they
they're
see
listening.
what you're looking at and watching and enjoying and
Have
going
a
back.
conversation with your phone on, and all of a sudden Facebook's got.
So, weird thing at the parish the other day. I got
Your
a call.
camera's rolling still, just so you know.
That's okay. Well, I got a call from the tech person, and she's like, hey, can you bring over the square for the school Gala voting, whatever. I'm like, oh yeah. She's like, can I also borrow your laptop? I'm like, sure. I go and I take her the stuff, and then I come back and sit at my desk, and I'm scrolling through the parish Facebook, and there's an ad for Square. I'm like, I never even used Square, talk about Square, but the one conversation where I said Square out loud, and now it's on my Facebook feed. I'm like, that's great. I'm like, I'm a finance person.
And that-
Square's the
Yeah.
credit card thing. Yeah, I'm like, that
That
is
is creepy.
weird. Also, people always say, like, if you have the laptop, to put, like, tape over the camera, because people can look at, yeah, it's scary. It's
You don't
scary.
know that?
I have heard of that.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I don't mean to
I
scare
don't do
everybody
that,
too.
but yeah,
I
I've
don't
heard of
either,
that.
but I'm also not in the habit of leaving I only really use my laptop much at work,
Yeah,
and I don't leave it open. I
close it.
when I'm done with it.
Yeah, and we're gonna close that. Yeah, but yeah, no, it's a crazy dynamic. But,
So just good practice, if you have a laptop with a webcam and a microphone on it, and you have somebody come in for a private conversation, you can go use the laptop.
smart.
Does that completely disengages the whole
I'll put your
possibility?
laptop to sleep.
Okay. Okay.
laptop won't do anything while it's
Yeah.
asleep, as far as I know.
Well, sometimes I do things when I sleep.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Talk in my sleep. But, yeah. Well, cool. I wish you luck in your ministry.